That brings us to our next round of session, which is a panel discussion. So we will again request you to just hold on to your seats for a couple of minutes as we set the stage up for the next panel discussion. In the meantime, in case anyone has any questions, there is a QR code at the back of your badge. You can scan that QR code and post your questions, and we will definitely have them answered. Thank you. आ रहा है यार Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for patiently waiting. Now we have a panel discussion on gaps in technical professional capacity in the private sector. And to conduct this discussion, we have an illustrious list of panelists. Let me introduce you all to them. And as I call upon your name, I would request you all to come and join us on stage. First, we have Ms. Sonali Dhopte, member of board and governing body, the Confederation of Digital Construction Practitioners, India. Can we have a round of applause? Ma'am, can I request you to take the second seat and we can take them from there on? Next we have Mr. P.R. Surendhra Babu, General Secretary and member of board and governing body for the Confederation of Digital Construction Practitioners, India. Mr. Sandeep Desai, Executive Vice President, Afcons Infrastructure Limited. Then we have with us Mr. Mandar Chaphalkar, Senior Director, Arcadis Consulting India Private Limited. Next up, we have Mr. Rakesh Kumar Garg, Assistant Vice President, TATA Projects. And our final panelist of the day, Mr. Swapnil Joshi, Founder and Principal Consultant, Intento Associates. And to moderate this discussion, may I call upon stage Mr. Darshan Ruikar, who's a Data and Information and Knowledge Advisory Leader at ARUP Group Limited. Over to you, sir.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody. So I think it's been a really good eye-opener in terms of the couple of presentations we have had, both from Tata projects as well as Afcons. So I think it sort of goes back to the theme that we have over the last day and a half, which is there are lots of good pockets of excellence in terms of what's already being delivered in the Indian market, and a number of people here who have experience in delivering excellence in the private sector in terms of what they do. But I'm not going to ask them now because we've already seen some good examples and we've seen some good examples yesterday. The theme of this is, okay, fine. We get an understanding that the private sector is very capable in delivering really good digital outputs from all the projects that they're working on in terms of the work that they do and have been, and it has matured over the last 10 and 15 years in the Indian market. What the theme of the session today really is having a look at, okay, fine, that's all okay, but in terms of a professional capacity development, are there still any gaps that they see within the sector? And then more importantly, if they're working on projects, what efforts or what insights can they provide that will help make their sort of client a more intelligent client? In this case, we're talking about the Indian government being an intelligent client, because that's what we are looking at in the future. And we have seen some really good examples of looking at vision statements today from PwC on the work that they're doing, but what else can be done? In terms of CPWD has already demonstrated some of that, but what else can be done? That's the overall theme. So I'll stop there and I'll start with some of the questions that I have here. I think we'll start with you, Sonali, with your experience and with the CDCP background as well as the work you do in your own organization. In terms of what do you think are some of the incentives from the private sector to develop capacities, or from professional body like CDCP, how could you ensure that there is enough project management capacity for implementation of BIM? What's your thoughts on that? So if you can address that from both what's available in the private sector and the public sector, and where you see opportunities, risks at the same time. So I'll just repeat that because I sort of confused the question. In your judgment, in terms of your experience with both CDCP and the work you do in industry, how can you ensure that there is enough managerial capacity in terms of project management? So going back to sort of the slide we looked at yesterday, there is excellence in terms of BIM production, but some gaps in terms of, say, BIM advisory or BIM management and assurance. What's your view on that, and what are the real issues that need to be addressed?
Good afternoon, everybody. I really got confused with the question earlier, but still try my best to answer it. So in terms of the gaps, we just heard from Afcons and Tata projects on what they are doing. We also heard from them that they have their own learning development centers where they're training people in-house. We've seen examples from DMRC and CPWD on what they need. So what I am seeing is that everybody's putting in effort. Everybody is doing things for themselves. But if an organization like CDCP or anybody comes in and this knowledge can be shared with them, we can come up with a plan that works for a bigger industry, not just the private industry, but even for the government sector. Right now we are seeing everybody doing things, but it's all silos. So we need somebody who can connect it. If we look at training institutes, the authoring part is really being taken care. but it's organizations who are using the tools, the data that is there. Sharing information will help the industry grow, identify the gaps. I think we are lacking in terms of sharing that information. For some reason, everybody's doing things and wants to keep the benefits a little closeted maybe. So an organization coming in and trying to pass it on to the bigger industry is, I think, what we need, and I think that is where CDCP can also contribute. Another area is that as part of Building Smart India or any other organization, there is certifications that can be done. So once you have matured to using the tools and the processes, as part of continued training, if we can do certifications, that is another way we can assure that the skill that is lacking with managers is enhanced, it keeps growing, and it's more relevant to what the need of the day is. Thanks.
That's really useful. That's an insightful answer, because one of the things that was demonstrated by so one of the things that was demonstrated by CPC this morning was a key pillar in terms of knowledge sharing and doing that in a systematic manner. And I think Adam did say that point, and so did Mike, and that was one of the things we pointed out yesterday, which was done by Abhishek and Nidhi. And that's really coming through in your answer, that yeah, we've got lots of good practice, but we really need to share it in some systematic way, and organizations like CDCP or others could be good facilitators. Switch it off. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll move on to the second one now. So this is one for you, Surendhra Babu. So what do you think are the incentives the private sector can help develop in terms of capacities for government in terms of rollout of BIM in the infrastructure sector? And what will be the enablers, do you think, and how can that be supported in terms of uptake by the government?
I will deal with the second part of your question first. It's about enablers and the government, right? And government is the biggest spender, so there should be value for the money that is being spent. Now, a question which can come as a corollary to your question is whether the government would want to really implement this new technologies, and will they do it? The answer is a resounding yes. We have seen so many presentations by government bodies, and everybody has made effort to implement what is the latest technologies which are available, BIM in particular. And the question now arises is how to bring the private sector also into the fold. So, and Mr. Abhishek has captured all the data in a very good form, and what it showed was so much of losses because of project overrun and cost. So the writing is very clear on the wall. Now, when we talk about tools like BIM, there's no two things about whether these technologies will help and whether there is going to be a benefit in using these technologies, because presentation after presentation we have seen what are the benefits that can come, and there is no two things about it. The question is, nobody has spoken anything negative about using BIM, but the small hurdle which we have is the investment that will go in terms of money and in terms of time to make this happen. So if you have the right environment and if you have the right price points, the private sector will innovate They will find ways and means of doing things and bring the implementation of BIM possible. The private sector is known for that. So if I step back a little bit, you look at some of the mega projects that have been done for the first time in the country. You take the metro project in DMRC. So way back in the early 90s, there wasn't any capabilities for a single contractor to do such a project. So what happened? The private companies formed a consortium. Okay, and what they did is, for example, DBDAC was there, L&T was there, Samsung was there, Shimatsu was there, and Itcon was there. Each of them brought their individual capabilities onto the table. So DBDAC brought their tunnel boring machine, L&T had its construction capabilities, design capabilities came from Shimatsu and so on. And the project was completed. Okay. Now I can tell this with confidence because I was involved in this project and I was there. The second example can be the Delhi airport, T3 terminal. So an airport of that size was not built before, but then we had to collaborate with so many other agencies and subcontract the best of the airport skills from elsewhere, bring it on the table. This is not anything to do with BIM. I'm telling you how the private sector can innovate. So if you have the right environment and create the right situations, then things will happen. So how can that be done? And it sort of echoes the question Mr. Abhishek had asked about what the government should do. To bring it back to that thing, so first and foremost, implementing things like BIM requires investment. So you should make things conducive. That's why I said the price point should also be proper. So in the starting from the time when the contract is formulated, if you stipulate very clearly that these are the things that are required to be done in this project, so then, and the client should pay for it. Okay, I don't see that BIM is an cost, it's an upfront investment for which the returns will come anyway, including for the private sector. So if that is a nudging point by which the government, in the contract, you put terms where you make it possible for the companies to invest, and then it will happen. This is nothing new because even in the previous times, before all this digitalization, you had contracts where you had a technical bid and a financial bid. So the technical bid was to specify the specifications that are required, and the technical bid is given first, and then the financial bid is in a separate cover, two-cover system. And the financial bid is not open until the technical bid is open and all the people who are in the fray are brought at par. And many times I have seen abroad in projects, more weightage is given to the technical bid than to the financial bid. So there is nothing new. So if you do such things, what will happen is, it will bring people at par. It will do two things. First thing is, in a very complex project, you want the top people who have got capabilities or who are capable of building the capabilities will come into the fray. And the next thing which we will do is, in projects which are less complex, which you don't want so much of capability. For example, you might want only 3D and 4D of the BIM to be done, but in a complex project you want much more things up to asset management. So the projects are also different. So when you do that, then you are preventing the bigger contractors to unnecessarily come into the smaller things, and then the prices are high and so on. So you can create a tier system. So if you do that, I repeat what I said again, the private sector will innovate by themselves. So over a period of time, you will find if the cost points are there, they will invest, they will have their own in-house training scheme, they'll build a bank of the skill sets, and they also will invest in whatever is required for BIM to be implemented. And over a period of time, you will find that we have an environment which is more of adopting these technologies. And with that, you will find that there are better deliveries, faster deliveries, more cost controls, which in turn is better project delivery by the government, which in turn means that there's a quantum leap about how projects are done in the country, which directly translates to a better value for the buck for the taxpayers' money and better project end results for the Aam Aadmi.
Thanks for that. That was useful. I think overall, just to sum that up, I think what you're trying to say is it's a question of maturity in the market over a period of time, and it will take time to become more mature, but it is moving in the right direction in terms of what needs to be done. Thank you for that insight. I'll come to you next, Mandar. So with your experience with Arcadis and the work that you're doing, it will be useful to get two insights. One is, how do you think the markets have developed in the work you're doing in line with investments in infrastructure that certain governments are making? Because at the moment, some of the work you do, a lot of it's offshore, but it's delivered from India. How have we met that demand? What's different, and how would you say it will be related to the Indian market going into the future in terms of workforce and in terms of demand? So if you could offer your insight, that will be really useful. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Today in the morning, Dr. Rajshekhar said that we learn from the mistakes. Let me start with a story. In 2004, I was in US, and one of the IT telecom company, while hitting one of the poles, electrical poles, they hit the water main of our subdivision. And then we were off the water for 1.5 days, and then there were a lot of lawsuits, $1 million lawsuits, that I missed my job interview, I missed my date, or I missed my school bus or whatever. And at that time, our county came out with digital mapping of all the utilities, which is what we talk infrastructure. And that's where I could see the importance of having everything digitized. At that time, I was just a bridge engineer, not thinking about BIM or digital or technology. But now when we connect the dots, we can see the importance of digitization as well as BIM technology. Now, what has happened, if you look at the movies like, say, Ocean's 11, or you can look like the Italian Job, people have used this, utilities or escape routes, for a robbery purpose. But we don't use it as a disaster management or for the benefit of the society. So now if you map all these things in a positive way, then it can help the society as well as the development of the infrastructure. Now, I would say the growth goes from tool set to skill set to mindset. So we need to change the mindset. And why? The reason I'm giving this example, because these are a fancy example for our young Indian, I would say, engineers. So we need to touch their hearts, and we need to sensitize them that how this technology is going to help you. Because in civil engineering, again, the mindset is BIM is something like CADing, and then I want to do something high-end engineering, that I am doing a track structure analysis or finite element analysis or wind analysis kind of a thing. So they are kind of shying away from this kind of a domain where a lot of avenues are opening. So one gap I see is, as a private sector, we need to go to the educational institution in their first or second year of engineering and give them what's out in the market, where it is heading in terms of tools and technology, and how they can add a value or they can get their career into it. So yesterday, I think Sagar or Dr. Venkata were asking, what is the future of BIM, or the engineers or the students are asking, what is the future? So we need to educate them, we need to give them like this complete picture, not a rosy picture, but a realistic picture, that how they can help into this aspect. So one is, changing their mindset, that why BIM is important. Secondly, giving them avenues for the growth, and then utilizing what we call Youngistan of India to cater to the needs of 2047. Now, I am sure we produce more than 35,000 civil engineers a year. So we still have one more generation if you back calculate from 2047, we have 23 years. So one generation is there. So if we can plug this gap, maybe today we are lacking by 2 lakh BIM modelers or BIM engineers, as Abhishek said yesterday. But I think we can slowly close that gap, but we need to head in that direction. So this is what I feel is we need to do as government as well as private institutions to find that capacity. Competency is there. I mean, just to give you a glimpse, currently, if I talk about UK, high speed 2, 70% of the BIM is being done from India, from all these top 10 companies, I would say. Doha Metro, when it was implemented in 2015, everything was done here. Yesterday, Mr. Rao told about Delhi Metro. So the competency exists. We just need to build the capacity to cater to the demand of future, which is so significant. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mandar, for that insight. That was useful. I'm now going to go to Mr. Desai as well as Mr. Garg and Swapnil as well. So I'll go to Swapnil first because, and then come back to you too. And it's building on the question that was actually asked. So I think it was really useful to get an understanding that both TATA projects as well as Afcons have in place some knowledge sharing portal capacity, as well as they impart training to them. Is there any incentivization, or is there something that can be thought about in terms of making that offer and incentivizing your client in a way, sort of a reverse psychology in a way, that you're incentivizing the client? And the reason I ask that is, and this is just with experience on the UK market, I'm sure it's there in other markets as well. When we have tenders from, say, Network Rail or National Highways, one of the things that we do get marked on is, okay, you're going to deliver this, tell us how you're going to upskill us. So I'm not giving that as an answer to you, but in the Indian market, you are much more knowledgeable as to what works and not work. So the question on that, Swapnil. Yeah.
So thanks first of all for giving me an opportunity to be a panelist. And coming to the answering your question, is the biggest challenge is your question what you've asked in the market at the moment, because we as a consultant, we have an expertise already to work on the specific domain. But the support from the other side, for us as a consultant, we have a client, whoever it is, can be a owner or it could be a contractor. So the major thing is, first comes is the contractual obligation for which we have to work for. Okay, so then, and the immediate question specifically comes out that what will be there for us, how we can uplift our, or how we can build an in-house capabilities. So that question is always there, but the working towards that is very few people does. Like for an Afcons, I'll be very upfront in telling that, because when we started this initiative, we did certain cases already beforehand, but then the question was, let's see whether it works. That maturity will started from there, whether it really works or not. When we worked on it, when it happened, during that process only, all the departments, everybody has given the support, which is stage one, I would say. They were not interested in you teach me first, or we are not learning anything. So we did that assignment, rolled it out, it was successful. And then we planned out a way that now we are going to take a bunch of the projects which is going to practice, which is going to be all the projects are going to be in the same way, we are going to execute it. So then we have a very systematic plan now, the way we have shown the dashboards right now. There we have worked our part, which is regular progress, where we brought it to 4D and all those things. Methodology validation, when we did, the site got involved. And then we sat together as stakeholders, understood how it is being used, how it can be benefited, and they were the party to implementation. So it was give and take approach, and it was a healthy atmosphere where we were ready to give it back and they were ready to understand, analyze and come with the solution. And to bringing it to a logical conclusion, design department is already involved, so whatever the flaws we are getting, not flaws of some copy-paste errors which are there from the design consultants coming in, so they got it resolved immediately. So we worked together on that. So what happening is, during this process, the site team got trained during the analysis on the methodology and other things. Design department is working with us. Now when we are taking the review, the beauty of this, and they treat us as a partner, not as a sub-consultant or a consultant. So the reviews are happening through the highest management, including IT as a part of it. So Sandeep sir is also chairs the meeting along with with the Director of Operations and Deputy MD also, as well as EVC also is a part of it. So what I'm trying to say here is, in that, everybody knows that I have done my bit of it as a stakeholder, and they are learning on one stage of it, and then now going one step ahead, we have handed over certain things to the site team. Now the presentations and other things what we have been doing, certain portion of which is very much skillful, or those things we are doing and mean passing it on to the site, and site is answerable to the management. So initially we were on a driver's seat, now we are on a supporting function, we are taking other projects, and then the site is on a driving seat. So basically now what's there for me is already being set up. The team is being set up in 1.5 years, and now there are two teams now working. One is Intento's team and one is the internal team, fully matured, I would say, on the BIM part, and we are exploring the next level. So that kind of a support is, I would say I have been working and trying to push BIM from 2008 when I did my master's from UK. But then I got success in between a bit and pieces. But then, my thing is when we say that what's there in me, if there is a participation is there from any stakeholder, during the process everybody can learn, and then somebody who has started it can go to the next level. So that is a bit a challenge at the moment in the market, but I feel that over the period of time, when the maturity grows, it can help. Like, just to add to the question which is being asked when we were presenting, what are we giving it back to the government or a client, and what you expect from them for a project? I would say I'm a consultant, but a contractor is executing a project. So what is expected is, when we are giving it back to you during the process, like what we are doing it for missing link, we expect the client should come back with, we will give a solution as well. Like, this land is not being handed over, we are not able to attack that front, so project is going to get delayed possibly. So from a planning perspective and a timeline perspective, if they act it immediately, we can, the delay can be, locked at that particular point of time. We work on the other front and come back after some time, so where the issue is being resolved. So if they work on that front, it will be really helpful, and project can achieve the timelines really well. So that's my perspective.
Thanks, Swapnil. That's insightful. Mr. Garg, would you like to add to that?
Good afternoon again. First of all, I want to thank you and all the people who helped organize this event, because this is really insightful and helps the entire industry. So thank you very much. And one question which always comes to my mind is, when it comes to BIM implementation, I'm wondering why industry is struggling so much. Because everybody knows that there is so much benefit into this, right? Yesterday you also mentioned in your presentation that 60% of the projects are delayed. And delay is to the order of 39 months, if I am not mistaken, right? Which is huge. And cost overrun. Cost overrun is again to the order of 30%. So we are not talking about small amount, we are talking about big sums here. So this is obviously, we have to implement BIM. There is no second opinion about that. We also, now question is skill set. Yesterday somebody mentioned that 30% of the global BIM work is being done in India. So there is talent available. Even since yesterday, I saw a lot of talent available here in the room. So we have the talent, we need to ramp it up obviously, because the demands are going to be huge. So we have to do all this, and as far as BIM implementation is concerned, to answer your question, it has to be taken to logical conclusion. It's not that we are just doing the formality just for the sake of it, or just to meet some contractual requirement, just do the BIM and hand over, and then just nothing happens with that. So when we are working on any government project, we are giving it back to the government, and then from there has to be some initiative from our client side as well, that yes, they really want to use it. We are there to handhold. We are there to handhold, and definitely we are there to support in whatever way we can. So definitely, so to answer your question, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And coming to you finally. Thank you, Mr. Desai.
Hello.
I feel the success of BIM is largely dependent on how best you create the ecosystem. When I talk about ecosystem, to begin with, right from top management till the people who are involved, how best you are taking them in confidence that this will be useful. Once that is done, afterwards we need to understand, do you have skill set within the organization or you need to partner it with somebody. So we did that with Swapnil. At the same time, we also looked at obviously other agencies also, whether they can be useful. And there are many. So this is the ecosystem. Second thing is we also have to get onto our in-house skill set. Who are the anchors with BIM? Plus, we also need to bring a lot of visibility in the company that we have done this. Now, let me give an example. Earlier, we ourselves, I am from IT, Swapnil partner, and other people used to come and we used to review the project. But we realized that there is no visibility to the top management. So we realized that we need to bring the visibility, we need to involve a lot of people. So we brought in our technical people. We showed them the importance of BIM. The most important was we took their feedback. Without that, it will not work. Their feedback, how it was incorporated was demonstrated immediately within 15 days time. So they got interested. So this ecosystem you must develop. And the last thread of ecosystem is client. That is, your project reviews must happen with the client, sometimes using this BIM model. Now, I'm just not talking BIM model of 3D. I'm talking up to 4D. 5D, obviously, you want to keep it aside, but 5D, as far as the cost is concerned, client is aware is its own cost. So you can demonstrate them 5D also. So we should take up to the last thread. For example, when Primavera was introduced, client, I remember in 1990, Primavera was introduced, not saying that it was compulsory. Later on, it was made compulsory in all the contracts because clients started understanding. Internationally, all players were making Primavera as the compulsory. So similarly, a stage will come where client will say BIM is compulsory and review must happen with me. I mean, Mr. Fadnavis in Nagpur Metro, he said, I want to see the review only on BIM, So that's the last thread of the success of BIM, I would say. Otherwise, BIM is a good tool from cost saving, whatever, from knowledge sharing, from teaching people, blah, blah, blah. But from social circle level, from improving really construction, I think we should get into that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a really insightful look into the industrial perspective on infrastructure for 2047. So I'd like to thank the panel. We have run out of time, but I'm going to allow one or two questions. What we'll do is we'll get the questions first, and then I'll leave it to which member of the panel would like to answer them. So yeah, starting here.
I think the panel was probably looking into the capacity building perspective. I don't know whether that is the right question to ask. I wanted to ask question to both Tata projects and Afcons. How did they find that capacity within the company, the scarcity, or how did they build, or if they hired outside, or I don't know. That is a question probably I asked others also, but what is your answer on that? How did you build up your internal capacity for doing this, implementing BIM?
Yeah. So we at Tata Projects, we have some, partners in all disciplines. We have partners. as well as we have the capacity within the company. All right, that is number one. Number two, we also have a very strong learning and development cell. So we conduct training. In fact, on BIM also we have regular trainings being conducted where all the site people, all relevant people, planning people, and finance people, engineers, everybody will get involved and get trained on. And that is ongoing process. It's not that it will happen just 1 or 2 months and then it will be stopped. So that's how we are building the capacity, because, you know, now the fact of the matter is there is demand in the market also of people who have knowledge on BIM. So people leave also, but then, you know, that is not hurting us in the sense, because we already have our in-house training program and we always have people as backup also. So that is not a problem. So in-house capacity is, that's how it is built. And plus we have outside partners also. Thank you.
In my opinion, capacity building is always there, will always be there. That's not an issue, was always there. Once you build your capacity, these people will definitely leave you. So once you build your skills, one must know how to retain them. For example, when we started BIM, I purposely started BIM without taking up in-house people. And I started with Swapnil. Now, about 3 weeks back, we said we will develop capacity building. So the first question thrown to HR, how are we going to retain these people? Because this is going to be like new SAP of engineering industry. You know, like earlier SAP FICO module pata hai, aa jao. Just name, if you know FICO, people is to give the job. I'm sure those who are aware about SAP. So here that trend is going to come. So first thing is we should know how are we going to retain these special skills. That's very important. So motivation and taking care of the people. Building up skills is not a problem at all. I mean, 3 weeks back I've started with one guy for missing link. He is ex-TATA project. Okay. So 5 of them I have sent to CDCP program, your open BIM standard. Next day our design head came and told me, Sandeep, don't worry, I'll give you 5 people. I said, hold on. पहला एक white paper बनाते हैं, तुम कैसे उनको रखोगे company में? That's very important, right? I mean, just training them, they will fly away. You have to motivate. You have to show them carrot. You have to show them how you are going to be progressing and how BIM is going to be useful. You know, that's very important. So first thing is, to answer your query, capacity building in any field is possible. HR, the talent management is most important. I'm not here to give HR lecture, but I thought that's very important.
Yeah, I am R.S. Rao from DMRC. I want to raise a query about the capacity building. Actually, when we are using for 3D BIM, we normally using this Autodesk, Revit and Navisworks, or for 4th dimension, we are using the Oracle Primavera. So actually that capacity building through that CDS and through them that to the Niti Aayog. So we should do something in Make in India basically, which is affordable. Basically why this Autodesk also gives on license base. It is not to the organization. Similarly, this Primavera is also a license base. Whereas we developed for the Delhi Metro, actually for the development of the dashboards, we used the NPulse. So that is actually, initially it was a Indian firm, that is the Nadi. Actually it was incubated in IIT Chennai. But actually when we went for the tenders basically, rather Bentley was the other competitor. So now when basically overall this technical and financial, when they got the tender and NPulse has developed, and it is a very good software and which is a cost software which can be customized to our requirement. Even they were very cooperative after their development. We actually at least plugged some 147, 148, some minor developments also basically. But whereas now, because as soon as it is successful, it is taken over by Bentley. Now it is a very, very costly software basically. So how can we stop this, basically this drive over or takeover by the international companies? Or because as we are saying, we have a lot of capacity building in India, whereas the 30 to 40%, even that we are the IT experts. Why can't we develop some parallel softwares which are affordable so that it can be used from from a small project to a big project?
I will tell, can I answer?
Yeah.
I can answer this because I can tell you the L&T experience, right? So organization is huge, 500 plus projects all over the country at any given point of time, and thousands of engineers involved, only the design people I'm talking, and so on and so forth. Somehow, due to some wisdom at that point of time, when it comes to the ERP, the organization decided they won't use any standard ERP software. Okay. So, while for engineering so many other software was used, from around 25 years back I have seen this. They had their own inbuilt ERP system. Okay. So, but even though there were other ERP systems, standard ERP systems like SAP and so on and so forth. So they decided they'll build. So the plus point is you have all the code, everything within you. The thing is, the minus point is the industry moves very forward. Okay, and the big software giants will innovate and come with better features. Those, if you don't, we are missing out on those things. But the plus point is you have it everything in-house. So as the time goes, many of the things started moving into the ERP system. Now coming to the question of the scenario with respect to BIM. So while all the designers were using some software or other for 3D, maybe Revit, a few of the schedule control softwares are also being used and so on. Now the big question is cost control. Okay. So everything is going to be, so we have everything in our own ERP system. So the question was what to do now. So we embarked on a big exercise. We employed a consultant, okay, not the big people, and we also got quotations from other people how much it will cost if they have to put their system in place for 5D BIM. So over a period of time, the linkages were established between the other, modeling and scheduling software with the ERP system. So now it started talking to each other. So all the cost parameters and cost control things are all sitting in the ERP. So this picks up, it reads the model, picks up the data and is able to generate data by which you are able to do cost monitoring. So that kept things in-house. So this is only our in-house experience.
Just a half-minute thing. One is suggestion to the government, but again, we have a lot of, I would say private tycoons, business tycoons. If we can create a white paper and show that many billions of work is coming under infrastructure, I'm sure government will support it instead of, getting government, on the hook. But private sector, if we can propose a white paper, I'm sure somebody will pick this up. And even if you take all these competitors or service providers you're talking, 30 to 40% of the staff is Indian only. So IT or technology or programming wise, we are already there. We just need some kind of a platform to kind of perform. So I'm sure this will eventually happen.
Sir, I will give you one facts. In 1990, 91, Tata Consulting Services, I don't know how many of them are aware, they brought project management software called as Prism. And this was really a good software. I have personally used, okay? It was skilled. It was skilled by the government only, saying that they want MS Project and Tata and Primavera as the standard. I'm sorry. Today, if you look at, we had so many good case studies. For example, we had Gupta SQL, which was a competitor to Oracle, which was killed. We have only one software which was recognized internationally, and that is Tally. We had software called as Marshall, which was from Ramco, which was an ERP competitor, which was competing with MFG Pro at that time. Only 3 software were there. One was MFG Pro, Oracle Financial, SAP, and Marshall. But Marshall was eventually killed. That means Ramco was nowhere in the industry. So I think government should give the boost. I agree with him. We have all the talents.
On that happy note, I think I'm really going to stop it. But just for information, everyone, sorry for those who could not ask their questions. There is a QR code here. Please do put in your questions. This is not the end of it. We will have the answers for you as well. We will be issuing the YouTube link as well as all the presentations. So this is really not the end. Please do put in your questions there. Darshan, back to you to round it up, please.
One piece of information, nothing to answer the question. Way back around more than 25 years back, some of the Middle East governments, they decided to put all their systems on the Linux instead of MS. For me, it was a big surprise because those guys can afford to buy licenses. They are all rich countries, but they decided to go for Linux.
Thank you. That's all really insightful. So thank you everybody on the panel. That was a really insightful look into, from an industry perspective in terms of capacity building as well as software and IT as well, which was really useful. So with that, I think thank you everybody, and we'll conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panelists. I would request you to just be on stage with us for a moment longer. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our panelists for such an engaging discussion. It has definitely brought into light many pressing issues that needs to be addressed and resolved in the near future so as to bridge the gaps and boost operational capacities. Now I request Mr. Darshan Ruikar to felicitate our panelists with some mementos. Ms. Sonali Dhopte. Mr. P.R. Surendhra Babu. Mr. Sandeep Desai. Mr. Mandar Chaphalkar. Mr. Rakesh Kumar Garg. And finally, Mr. Swapnil Joshi.